It's supper time with Meat and Potatoes, a podcast by Embrace, where your journey is our journey.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my brothers and sisters and everybody tuning in. Thank you again for joining in for the Embrace Meat and Potatoes podcast. We are now on season 2, where we are going to be focusing on the new Muslim experience. Today, I am joined again by my wonderful brothers, Abdul Rashid from New York, Brother Rashid from Sacramento, California, and Brother Kenneth from Dallas, Texas. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my brothers.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Beautiful brother Daniel.
MashaAllah. Fantastic to see all of you again. Today, we want to jump into the topic regarding fatherhood in Islam, or raising Muslim children inside of this non-Muslim world. For us, coming from the American experience, if you will, sometimes Islam is viewed as a foreign religion, even though it is the most universal of them. We want to delve into the topic of what are some of the challenges, what are some of the trials, or what were some of the experiences that we have had regarding bringing up Muslim children inside of a sometimes a very secular world. With that being said, here I want to go ahead and start in the circle here by passing the torch over to Brother Abdul Rashid. I'm sorry, I said torch, but I meant fork, to Abdul Rashid, so he can start us off with a good tidbit of some good advice going forward. So, Bismillah, Abdul Rashid, the plate is yours.
Well, Bismillah. I'm going to cut straight to the chase. And as a father of 3 myself, I live in as we spoke about before in a prior episode, I live in a divided household, so I'm the only Muslim in my family.
MashaAllah.
But nevertheless, I'm trying to influence them the best I can by my example, right? And as we spoke about before, I wrote it down, but I can't remember that. Where Allah says, save yourself and then save your family. So, that's very important to me as I try to save my family and myself as well. And, so it's a struggle because my kids go to public school. All 3 of them go to public school. And my son, who's the oldest, is about to graduate. And so, I try to be as good a role model as I can, being that I practice the deen as best as I can, and I try to teach them as little as I know, because I don't know a lot, right? But so it's a struggle, they, like obviously this weekend that we're taping is Halloween weekend. So me personally, I don't practice Halloween. I don't participate in Halloween at home or even at the job, but I don't stop my kids from doing it because they've been doing it for a long time. Even in the past when I was not necessarily practicing the deen, but I allowed them to practice, and I would take them to the Halloween parties or whatever. But they're at an age now where they don't necessarily need me to do that, and I explained to them why I don't, why Halloween's not good for me, and I don't think it's good for them. But especially for my son, I let them make their own decision, and I try to give them, the Islamic references and why they shouldn't. Nevertheless, and so that's just one of the small challenges, but as we'll talk about more tonight, there's many more challenges.
Inshallah. And I think there are definitely inside of this world of raising children enough challenges so as there is, but I think you brought up a lot of excellent topics. I think that we're going to be going back and forth on in a little bit, but just like a Hiram, let's go ahead and pass the fork and knife over to Brother Rashid from Sacramento. Give us a little bit of tidbits and information. What can you share with us around the table here, Brother Rashid?
Assalamu alaikum, my brothers.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Well, my kids are now grown and gone. However, when they were younger, I was, divorced from their mom, and so that was a non-Muslim home, and I was a Muslim home. So we had split duties and child custody and things of that nature. So it was a little bit very challenging in that whenever they came to me, we're praying and practicing the deen, but when they go home, obviously they weren't really practicing there within their home. It wasn't enforced. Their mom wasn't Muslim. So let me put it that way. So it was a challenge in that whenever they came here, we were praying, and I was trying to be the best of example, as Brother Abdul Rashid mentioned, being the best example as we possibly could, and then teach them why I didn't do Halloween, why I didn't do Christmas, and of course Thanksgiving, it being a non-religious holiday, and that the day that the families get together, of course we get together with my family then. But at the end of it all, just trying to be the best example that I possibly could. And it is a challenge when they start facing things in school, and they start facing things in other spaces, and then they come and ask me questions versus asking their mom questions. And I'm sure they were confused at some point in time, but just driving that message home and being as consistent as you can possibly be. And then inshallah ta'ala, the kids will grab a hold of it. I was not going to force my children to take their shahada. When they were born, I was not Muslim. I became Muslim later on when they were like 2 and 3 years old. So I couldn't force them to be Muslim, and there's no compulsion in religion. This is something that I really wanted my boys to really look at life and make a decision on their own. And it was their choice, and it was their decision. And out of 3 sons, not all of them are Muslim, but inshallah ta'ala, Allah will guide them and turn their hearts, open their hearts and to where they embrace this beautiful deen. But even in that, I'm still trying to be as consistent as I can be with them. And again, hopefully they'll catch on to everything that we're trying to teach them, inshallah.
MashaAllah. And I definitely agree that the sense of honesty as well as the sense of sincerity is one of the best ways that we can address that in regards for our families, to make sure that they can accept the sense of the deen. Because as you mentioned, there is no compulsion in that religion. And subhanAllah, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses for his deen, he just so out of his own will. But Brother Kenneth, to bring the plate over to you and the fork and the knife as well. So without in saying this in the nicest way, so you're the one who isn't a father around this table here, but that does not discriminate or lessen the fact that you have plenty of perspectives or insight that could be very beneficial. So without further ado, Brother Kenneth.
And it's coming. It's coming soon.
Absolutely. Inshallah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Daniel, for pointing that out. I'm the only single brother here, and the only one who isn't a father. But really, there's really only a couple points I can share, since I don't really have the experience of being a father. I do have the experience of not having a father growing up, and I think actually I think a couple of us here have had that experience before, of growing up without a father, and having that lack of fatherhood in your life, having access to someone who was supposed to be a leader, someone who's supposed to be a role model for you, someone who's supposed to be a means of helping you become a man yourself, really, for me, inspires me that when inshallah ta'ala I do become a father, I become the best father that I can be. And where I really look to kind of best prepare myself for that journey, that when inshallah ta'ala that journey comes, is I look at how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace must be upon him, was a father. We know that he was a father, and he is our best example. And I'm going to highlight really first and foremost just 2 main hadith that I think very brilliantly reflects his balance in raising children. The first is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that when your child reaches the age of 10, they should be disciplined if they are not praying. They should be instructed to pray, and if they do not, they should be disciplined. So that's the age where it's time for them to start putting the deen into practice. The second hadith I want to highlight is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said in response to a companion who saw him kissing his grandchildren, Hassan and Hussein. This companion said that, by Allah, he has never once kissed any of his children. And the Prophet responded by saying, those who do not have rahmah for others will not be given rahmah on the day of judgment. And so why am I saying rahmah instead of mercy, which is a lot of times how people like to define rahmah. Rahmah is something it has a much more positive connotation than mercy. And the way I usually like to define rahmah is compassion. Who does not have compassion for others. And so we see here these two contradictory hadith, so to speak, that when you bring them together, the Prophet ﷺ had balance in raising children. He showed discipline when discipline was necessary, but also he showed affection, love and affection, which was the standard. And so that, I think, is the best way to move forward when it comes to being a father, to make sure that you balance between not being so lenient with your child that you go off and do whatever that they want, but you also make sure you show them that love and support. There needs to be a balance, right? And that's something we kind of find lacking in our community today, the general community. Like this, like unconditional support, for example, is something we see a lot in our communities today, where you'll find parents saying, I'll support my child even if their child's doing something horrendous or horrible. I mean, you need to have a balance. Unconditional love and unconditional support are not the same thing. So it's important to have that balance. And I think we can see that through the example of the Prophet ﷺ.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah, Brother Kenneth. Like I mentioned, even despite this, you still have a lot of wonderful points to bring to the table here, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be adding even more to that as we continue on for today. But alhamdulillah, for a little bit of background about myself too. So I have 2 biological children, and in my marriage, my wife had brought 2 children from her previous marriage, and in that sort of situation, certain situations, the father is not active in any sort of way. So as far as even though when the mother states, oh, your father is so and so, this is his name, that is established, and we don't neglect that fact that biologically who their father is, but as far as we're concerned regarding our family structure, I am their dad. And regardless of whether he's in the picture or not, a dad figure or a father figure is still very required, in my opinion. I think there is a value to it. There is a beauty in it. There is a balance between a father and a mother inside the household, and also an ease that comes when you have that that moral as well as emotional and also financial support inside of the home as well. So I think that makes a very drastic impact to be that personification of that inside of the household. But going off of what have been mentioned by Abdul Rashid as well as Brother Rashid, there is this perspective, and sometimes this worry that I have that despite what you may possibly do, and despite the example you might try to set, you can put all of your efforts forward to be that prime example or that good example of Islam, but it may still not necessarily work against you, but it's an entire culture whose entire environment, which is based upon getting people away from religiosity or keeping people away from their deen or the love of dunya, as opposed to family or sincerity or the deen that we're trying so hard to follow and to emulate the Prophet ﷺ in doing so. But But on that note here, I want to open up the floor to whoever feels a certain point or perspective they would like to continue in regards for this talk, in regards for fatherhood in Islam. What sorts of tidbits can we share with one another to help increase or help benefit one another, or for other new fathers or growing fathers who are listening into the podcast now? Bismillah.
Right. So I know that I'm the odd man out and not the only non-father in the room, but I did want to kind of quickly comment on a very heavy point that Brother Daniel highlighted, which is the fear of, despite all our best efforts into raising our kids and teaching them Islam, them choosing a different path. And that is a very genuine fear. And we already have brothers here who have told us that they have children who have not accepted Islam yet, inshallah. Inshallah, they may Allah guide them. And so that is, of course, a very genuine fear. And especially when we look into the examples of the Anbiya, the prophets, we know that Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, his son, despite being with his father every step of the way, and did end up rejecting Islam, ended up rejecting worshiping Allah alone, and ended up being punished for it, being swept up by the flood. And this was Nuh alayhi salam's son. He was a prophet. So it's like, if a prophet can't force his child to believe, then who can? And unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's really not our responsibility to guide. All we can do is teach to the best of our ability. And in saying that, one thing I will say, and I know, again, I'm not a father, but based on observations that I've seen, one of the reasons why we see many Muslim youth today kind of stepping away from the deen is how the deen is introduced to them, right? Mm-hmm. So many times for many of our Muslim youth, they are taught the deen through rules. Don't do this, don't do that. This is haram, that is haram. If you don't pray, you're going to get punished by Allah. You better do that, or Allah's going to punish you. It's haram, 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 haram. Do this, don't do this. And so they end up seeing Islam as nothing as just a bunch of rules. And so when you live in a society that's pushing the idea of, hey, put your wants first before everything else, that's going to look a lot more enticing than what Islam is offering. But when we make our focus in those early years, teaching them who Allah is, teaching them who their Lord is, why you want to obey your Lord, not just that you should, but why you should want to, help developing that love for Allah and love for that prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. That, I think, inshallah, can help make us more successful into raising our kids upon the deen, helping them hold on to the deen, help them develop that conviction in their deen, despite some of the pushback they will get from the society.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. At the same time, I have to lean on there's no compulsion in religion, because sometimes it could be that the parent or parents, for that matter, can teach their kids to love Allah, and to love the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But for whatever reason, the child will decide not to embrace the religion. I mean, it does happen, and we have to be real. Absolutely. We have to be real about that. But the fear part, I think you hit the key word, is that if a child decides not to embrace the religion, we can't necessarily be fearful about it. The thing we should fear is that we do teach them the religion correctly, that we do teach them about Allah, we do teach them about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we teach them why they should want to learn or love the Prophet and the law. But we can't necessarily tell them, well, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. That is not going to work. I agree with you. That absolutely is not going to work. But even if we do teach them all the things that we just talked about, it is possible that a child will not embrace the religion, but we just still need to be steadfast, and we just need to be consistent, and we just need to not ever give up. And then at some point in time, it could be, I mean, my dad was born Muslim. I mean, when I was born, my dad was Muslim, but I didn't embrace or take my Shahada until my 30s. And I'm 58 now, just turned 58 yesterday. So, you know, even in all that, it took that long for me to even embrace the religion. So I have to look at our children and assume that sometimes it could be that they won't accept Islam as youngsters, but maybe they'll go ahead and embrace the religion later. And I just want to throw out there too that there's that the Prophet ﷺ said that men are the guardians of their families, and it is the responsibility of every guardian to guard those who fall under his own guardianship. So all of that said, that just drives home the point that we have to teach them about the deen and the why part, and not necessarily try to scare them into this religion, because that is absolutely not gonna work.
So,
and just let me just quickly clarify, because I agree with everything Brother Rashid just said. And what I was saying before was not me saying that this is a guaranteed to work, because nothing's a guarantee, right? Even if we teach our kids the why instead of the do first, you're right, that's not a guarantee that they will follow the deen. Like I mentioned, even Nuh alayhi salam, who is one of the best suited for giving da'wah, his son ended up not embracing the deen. So absolutely, there's no guarantee that's going to work. But at the very least, what I'm saying is that it's more effective to teach the why instead of just teaching the do's and don'ts, or focusing on the do's and don'ts in the beginning. It's not a guarantee, but it is more effective, and inshallah ta'ala, Allah knows best.
So I agree with both of you. And I just bring it back to my own, I guess, Christian growing up. And this is where I think I struggle with my kids. So like, as a kid, my mother forced me, my sister, to get up every Sunday morning to go to Sunday school, to go to church, because we had no choice, because, you know, we lived in her house and we did what she said. But then when I turned around 14, 15, after many years of going to the church, my mother was like, now it's on you, right? And I think I still went for a few, however long it was. But then definitely by the time I was a senior in high school, and obviously when I got to college, I stopped going. But the good thing about it is I had a religious foundation. I had a moral center, a moral code, whatever. And that served me for a long time, even when I wasn't practicing any religion. And I think it also helped me now after my conversion, because at least I had an understanding of some sort of understanding of who God was, or who I thought God was. And then now I came to this beautiful deen, and now I'm fully immersed in, I know who God is, and I know my purpose in life and all that good stuff. And so I think not just me, but I'm more worried about me and my kids. But I think this is a problem that's rampant in the Muslim community. Even the born Muslims aren't necessarily getting the firm foundation of the deen, and that's why as soon as they're able to get to high school or to college, they run astray or whatever. Right. And as soon, you know, and for the young ladies, the sisters, as soon as they throw the hijab off and they go be part of the dunya. And I think it's because of what both of you just said. I think, and it's a delicate balance, you know. How do you give them that foundational moral upbringing that hopefully, whether they be converts or born Muslims, that when they become mature adults, that they will choose this deen, this beautiful deen, and continue on that path. And so I, you know, for myself, I worry that, you know, when it's my turn to be judged, Allah's going to ask me, like, what did you do? And you know, I think I'm doing the best I can. I hope I'm doing the best I can. I've been told I'm doing the best I can, but sometimes I think that's not going to be enough. You know, I think so. But you know, that's my own torment, my own torture.
Alhamdulillah. And I think there's some wonderful pieces being thrown around here from Brother Candace's example for Nuh alayhi salam, so that even for a prophet, for the example of Nuh alayhi salam, for his children, that they still did not accept Brother Abdul Rashid, is that, you know, you bring them up inside of a household where there's those examples, but there's still that concern, or even Brother Rashid, where originally you weren't brought up inside of a Muslim household, but when you accepted Islam when they were around, you know, 2 or 3, you know, you try not to force them, you know, put them in sort of a compulsion. Somewhere in the middle there, I am, but and there's always you know, it's a good worry, because, you know, we want to be successful. We want to also, you know, see our family members inside of the Jannah, and we want to them to be the righteous children that pray for us after, you know, we pass away. You know, this is, you know, these are the beautiful things that we hope to establish for ourselves as a sadaqah jariyah, and to make that progeny that's going to expand further, and, you know, hopefully be better Muslims even than what we were. I think that's the essence of a fatherhood in a way. We want our children to be even better than we were, right? And in that sense, as Abdul Rashid mentioned, you know, we're going to stand before Allah, and hopefully we're going to say, yes, Allah, I did everything that I could possibly do in my situation to try to introduce them to be this good character, to be this, to be kind and generous, to provide those examples. But even as Abdul Rashid mentioned too, who goes to say, since all of us here are reverts, you know, we know that experience, that sometimes the direction or the call to Islam may not come to us when we are younger, or may not come to us with the first moment that it has been introduced to us. In that same case, it may be, you know, when they're, you know, 10, when they're 14, when they're 18, when they're 20, when they're 25, when they're 30. It doesn't matter even if they're 75, if they at that point decide, at that point, I'm going to be Muslim because, you know, it was introduced to me, and now at this time I'm ready to make that step, and to make that dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best of when that's going to be, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us and those who may make it to that point, and that may be the time in which they're ready to make that repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be accepted as part of the ummah. I mean,
and I have to admit that there's a part of me that's a little bit selfish, in that, and someone, I think Brother Abdul Rashid touched on it earlier, is having a righteous child who makes dua for you, right? There's a lot of blessings and a lot of benefit in that. So how am I going to get that in my life unless I do my best to teach my child this religion, right? And it's the why part. You know, I want to be able to be in the position to where my children, child, whatnot, are actually praying for me, because I have a better shot at getting in the paradise if I do that. And like you're saying, leaving that sadaqah jariyah behind, so that they're doing that, and also to standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, I know I'm going to be asked, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And I want to be able to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and give a sincere, honest answer in that I tried. And I tried my best. Now, if my child decides never to accept Islam, that's on them at that point. I'm going to be concerned about me on the day of judgment. That may sound selfish, but all of the hadiths say that I'm going to be concerned about me. So that being said, you know, I have to do the best that I can do. I have to do the best that I can do now, and be all of that for my child, and be present. And to all the dads out there that may be mad at their baby mama or whatever else it is, be there for your child. You know, absolutely be there for your child, because if you're not, then that is something you're going to be asked about. And I don't wish that on anybody, to not be able to answer that question in a positive way.
So yeah, that's another balancing act, right? As dads, fathers, and whether your kids are Muslim or not, making sure you give your family their due, right? Because
Mhm.
you owe them time, right? Spending time with your
Mhm.
wife, your kids, and not as a group, and then as individually, right? And so I know, that's another thing that pains me sometimes. Like, am I spending enough time? It's not, and of course, I realize it's not necessarily quantity, but it's quality, right?
Mm.
Mm.
And so I try to spend as much quality time with my kids and with my family as much as possible as I can. And so that worries me sometimes too, because we all want to do these things. We want to go to the masjid and study and pray and go see the latest speaker or whatnot. But you also have to make time for your family, whether they're Muslim or not. And so yeah, that's a juggling act that I know you two uh, deal with as well. Well, I mean, maybe not so much Rashid because his kids are grown, but he has done it.
But it never ends. They're still my babies. They still babies.
With that, brothers, we're about to run out of time here, so let's go to our dessert round. Let's go around the circle again. So up to Rashid, what are you bringing for dessert today?
I'm bringing some carrot cake. I had some carrot cake
Mashallah.
today, and I just love carrot cake. So I'm bringing this nice fluffy carrot cake. So this is a topic that we could talk about for days upon days. So it's dear to me because I have 3 kids, and I'm trying to do the best I can to be on the deen myself and to expose them to this beautiful religion. I try to invite them out as much as I can to the things I go to and the things I do outside the house, at the masjid or wherever. And so it's a juggling act, and it's it's a lot of patience and prayer, dua for them and myself. And so I would just say that don't stop, just don't give up. Keep dropping little jewels here and there, and inshallah they will bear fruit later on. Not just for you, but for them as well. So keep doing what you're doing. And don't stop.
Mashallah. Passing it to Brother Rashid. What do you bring into the dessert table?
Bismillah.
Bring it out, man.
I'm gonna bring the bean pie
Bring out the bean pie.
and some vanilla ice cream.
Subhanallah.
Ooh, nice on top.
Oh God, a little scoop on top or on the side, a la mode.
Delicious.
So, alhamdulillah. Oh, bismillah. In closing, I want to just say that that it's been written that the father's role is 6 dimensions, that you should serve as leader, as economic provider, protector, educator, playmate, and friend. And of course, there's ages that plug into each one of those, but without getting into all of that, these are 6 categories that we should try our best to be there for our kids, and for our household and for our families, and just be consistent and just be present in those 6 categories. And inshallah ta'ala, Allah will put that on our side of our scale. That's the positive side, to where we'll end up in paradise, inshallah ta'ala.
I mean. Brother Kenneth, what are you bringing to the table today?
So I think today I'm going to bring something very old-fashioned, just some nice Oreo cookies. Oreo cookies and a glass of milk. Nice.
Dip it in the milk. There we go.
That's right.
Can be in a classic.
Yeah. Open or close, either way, it's a good way to eat the Oreo. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.
No, but just in closing, I really want to just reemphasize a point Brother Rashid brought up, which really resonated with me, which is the importance of being there for your children. As I mentioned before, I grew up without a father. Abdul Rashid, I think, also mentioned grew up without a father. And my father passed away a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, I never really was able to make that true, strong relationship with him before that time happened. And of course, that does create regret. And so it's very important for those of you out there who are fathers, regardless of what your situation could be, whether you're not getting along with the wife, or you're divorced, or you have a very high demand job that brings you away from the home. It is imperative that you are there for your kids. Be there for them. guide them, teach them, be, that shoulder for them to lean on. You teach them what it means to live in this world and to prepare for the akhirah. Because at the end of the day, Allah expects you to do your best. He does not expect you to be perfect, but he expects you to do your best. And you want to be able to, on that day, say to Allah with ikhlas, with sincerity, Ya Allah, I did my best.
SubhanAllah, brother Kenneth. Thank you for sharing that. On my final point here with that cherry cheesecake, the one quote that I always comes to the back of my mind is all happy families are alike in the same way, but all unhappy families are unhappy in their own personal way. But in that same sense, so there's a good way to, be a good family, be a good father figure, but the ways of doing it on the opposite end, there are plentiful ways of making those sorts of mistakes or not being present. And I think generally the first and foremost thing is that we have to be active, and we have to make a stance, and we have to be that figure for them, and that will definitely show inside of the household. I think if your kids aren't praying, or they're participating in things that may be of the opposite spectrum regarding what our deen is teaching us, we should look at ourselves before we look at the others inside of our household. What can I possibly do more to be that figure, or to reinforce what is best, or how to be that figure for them so they know what is right or what is wrong. But with everyone's efforts, Jazakallah khairan, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala support us and increase us and make things easy for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase Brother Kenneth so that he has many, many children, so that for season 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, mashallah, let's see how many we can amass to, inshallah.
No pressure or anything.
two sets of twins.
Subhanallah, mashallah.
I guess you guys expect me to be made of money too.
Mashallah. Hey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises his risk, so subhanallah, whatever he gives you, it'll be better for you. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, you're going to law school, so you're good.
Mashallah.
Not all lawyers make a lot of money, man. But inshallah, what Allah wills.
Mashallah. But Jazakallah khairan, my brothers. Great to see you all again. Thank you for joining in for another wonderful meal, and alhamdulillah, we'll meet again soon. Allahumma subhanaka wa bihamdi ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Delicious dinner, brothers. Delicious.
Mashallah.
Meat and Potatoes is a podcast by Embrace. Embrace is a comprehensive convert care and empowerment organization dedicated to providing Muslim converts with social and educational spaces that encourage growth, shape their Islamic identity, and equip them with the tools they need for their lifetime journey. To learn more, visit us at www.embracereverts.org.